Now, have you ever wanted to just get away from it all, go off to some deserted place, and simply relax and leave all the pressure behind, only to find out that that pressure has somehow followed you there? Well, I think we've all had those getaway vacations where we ended up not getting away, and certainly wouldn't call what ended up happening a vacation, which, strangely enough, is where we find Jesus this week. And he and the disciples have had, well, quite a stretch of stress in the weeks that they've lived. As we've followed them on their journey through the eyes of Mark this summer, we've heard some descriptions of what or who Jesus is not. He's not Elijah. He's not John the Baptist. And he's not welcome in his hometown. But this week we get to see what Jesus is made of, who he is, how he responds when he's frazzled and fraught and off to the desert to escape. And then the people follow, watching the course of his boat from shore, racing to all the towns ahead that might be on the way, that might be a place where he'll stop, letting nothing keep them from following where Jesus and his disciples might be headed, even out into the desert, simply to be near Jesus, to hear his message, and perhaps to touch his garment and be healed. Who were those people that followed? What do you think they looked like? What kind of lives did they lead? Most of them, I suppose, were small town people. They had work to do each day, relationships to deal with, to foster, to maintain. They had health issues. They had frustrations and heartache and joy and laughter. They felt good when their work was done for the day. They were ordinary people, the kind you meet every day, though they did live under the oppressive foreign regime of the Romans, surrounded by people who hated them for their weird religion and the way that they dressed and the things that they ate and all the rules that they had to follow. Some of the people were everyday artisans, hired by Romans to build their towns and temples, to carve out the rock, to make the chairs, to do whatever it took to provide that lifestyle, giving them food and grain and anything they wanted, trading their wares. Running along the shoreline that day, there were shopkeepers, farmers, fishermen. Some of them were devout in their faith, and others undoubtedly were very casual about what they believed. In other words, and in every way, they were people just like you and me. Now, some might say they were desperate to see Jesus, and others would say they were just fascinated, hopeful, inspired by the change that this great rabbi might bring. Well, regardless of their motivation, of all the baggage and all of their misdeeds, for certainly there were scoundrels among them, people in bondage to bad habits, cruel people who had tormented others or cruelly abused them. When Jesus sees these people who won't let him get away on a vacation, he is filled not with frustration and anger for his getaway that didn't get him away. Oh no, Jesus is filled with compassion. He sees that they are hassled, helpless, wandering like sheep without a shepherd. And sheep without a shepherd don't find a pasture. Sheep without a shepherd don't know how to take care of themselves. Sometimes if a sheep goes too long without being shorn, it can fall and end up paralyzed on its own wool. They need to have the shepherd come and pull him with a crook to set him back up. Or if a wolf comes, they have to take the club that they carry with them, the cudgel, and bash away whatever animal is trying to attack these very helpless sheep. Well, Jesus looks at the hassled and harassed, ordinary, everyday people. And he's filled with compassion. Compassio, it means to suffer along with. God himself, not grasping on to his godliness, becomes one of us. Jesus opens his heart to feel what these harassed and helpless people feel. He hears what they have to say about their awful circumstances. He experiences with them the cruel and unfair effects of sin. Yes, Jesus is the true shepherd, the good shepherd who has compassion for his sheep. He's quite a contrast from the shepherds described in today's reading from Jeremiah who have scattered God's flock, have driven them away. Jesus instead is the one who reconciles all, who welcomes all into the fold. According to Paul, that's such a powerful passage. In his flesh, Jesus has made both groups into one and has broken down the dividing wall. That is, he has broken down the hostility between us. Not only are we joined in Christ, but through Christ, former enemies now equally inherit the reign of God. Jew and Gentile, slave and free, man and woman, all together, the walls broken down so that we might become the children of God, the sheep of his flock, that we might inherit the kind and gentle and peace-filled and righteous reign of God. So then, Paul says, you are no longer strangers or aliens, but you are citizens with the saints and also members of the household of God, brought into community, brought into a place where you're at home and at rest. All of that happening because Jesus came to be one of us, to understand us, to save us, not simply to look from the outside and judge what may or may not be what you see. Stephen Covey, the author of countless books on success, there's 7, 9, whatever they are. There's just a bunch of ways that you can follow the Covey road or pathway to excellence. Tells of an experience that he had on the New York subway. Sitting quietly in the car with the other silent commuters, a man suddenly entered with a group of noisy and rambunctious children, his children. He sat down and closed his eyes as though he was oblivious to his rowdy brood. The once quiet subway car was now a disturbing place of chaos. The children's inappropriate behavior was obvious to everyone, except it seemed to their father. Finally, Covey felt he had to say something to the man about his unruly children. And the man opened his eyes and evaluated the situation as if he was unaware of all that had transpired. Oh, you're right. I guess I should do something about it. We just left the hospital where their mother died an hour ago. I don't know what to think, and I guess they don't know how to handle it either. Things are not always as they seem. We don't always understand the actions of others unless we allow ourselves to embrace them, to enter into their lives and have compassion, to suffer along with them, to walk for a while in their shoes.